Hello you beautiful misfits, Matt here with my first bite of the PC version of No Man's Sky, which came out this week. A game I'm actually quite fortunate enough to be able to play because quite a few people can't even do that right now. Many on the Steam forums and other community sites have reported they can't even get the game to load, managed to get the game to load only to have it crash with a white screen, or having it randomly crash to desktop during play. In fact, I had my first crash to desktop today before recording this footage, my only one in about 15 hours of play so far. So yeah, this game has issues, even for lucky old me, because while it certainly runs on my machine, which isn't a super beast by any stretch, but still well above the minimum requirements, it doesn't exactly run what you might call well. For starters, the game defaults to locking your FPS at 30 for some utterly mad reason, but even then you'll be lucky to get about 15 frames per second. And doing the logical thing of bumping up the maximum frame rate in the options to 60 only gets you about 30 on average. To get anything approaching 60 frames per second, you'll have to set the frame rate to 90, 110, or just do what I did and slap it on maximum. Yet even that doesn't guarantee a decent frame rate. On my GTX 970 with VSync turned off, my FPS fluctuates anywhere between 45 and 55 frames per second on average, which doesn't include the awful 1 second stutters that sometimes happen when you're exiting or entering your ship or entering a building or completely at random while walking across a planet. I've also noticed a small but not insignificant drop in frame rate after about several hours of continuous play, which is likely a memory leak of some sort, and one of the many blatant signs No Man's Sky was not as well optimised for PC as it could have been, and that's really disappointing given how many delays this version went through. I mean, the most egregious example is the absolutely hideous terrain pop-in you can see here, with hills and other features rizzing in with this awful looking dithering effect. And this is with the generation detail option at its highest setting. At least, I assume that option covers the draw distance. It might as well have said Chips Bagpuss Christmas for all the good it does. Now, I can forgive the low quality textures, I don't like them, but I can forgive them, but this, however, is... God, I hate to be an elitist PC gaming snob stereotype here, but it really takes me out of the experience that Hello Games are clearly trying to make. And it's not like I'm flying particularly fast either. I've encountered the same issue while tromping around on foot at sprinting pace. Another clue the game came to be developed primarily with the PS4 in mind is the interface. It's clunky, unwieldy and serviceable at best, with some obvious console holdovers. Transferring items from your suit to your ship or crafting something requires you to hold down the appropriate button or key, yet other things like clicking options requires a single press or click. Except on some menus you can go to the next page by tapping the key it'll tell you to, but if you then try and click it, you have to hold the mouse button down. There's just no consistency, and playing with a controller isn't much better either. Some PC gamers, myself included, like to play some games with a controller. Hell, for some games it's practically mandatory. Anyway, in this case, since my PC is in my bedroom, I thought, well, I'll lie in my bed, move the monitor around, play No Man's Sky with a controller. Just lie back, chilled, relaxed, shoot some minerals, explore some alien worlds, and I was able to do that quite comfortably, in fact, up to a point. That point specifically being, I fancy renaming some of the planets or life forms I've discovered. And when I went to do that, I had to get up, go over to my desk where my keyboard was and type in the name I want, which rather defeated the whole purpose of chilling out on my bed just a bit. And that just made me think, why not give players using a controller an on-screen keypad like in the PS4 version? Particularly since the game already switches automatically between keyboard and mouse and controller if it detects you using either one. Literally, just like that. You press a button on your controller, the on-screen prompts will change to controller prompts. Click a mouse button, they'll change back to keyboard and mouse one. Simple. Oh, speaking of controllers, the game defaults to having you click the right stick to sprint. Yeah, the stick you used to look around with in practically every other game. Fortunately, you can at least rebind that to the left stick in the options along with other controls, so Hello Games got that bit right at least. None of this, however, covers the more trivial issues I've encountered that, while not entirely game ruining, just make a rough experience even rougher. Things like phantom ore deposits that you can shoot with your mining laser and you can destroy them, but they won't give you any ore. Another thing, I bought a new ship the first chance I could get because A, it looked cool, and B, it had more cargo slots. Why wouldn't I? Except for some reason the game has decided that the lasers on the new ship I bought haven't been charged, and it keeps pestering me to recharge them with oxides. The only problem is, there's no option to charge them whatsoever. And it doesn't even matter because the lasers work just fine. I've shot down 5 ships with them so far. Yet the game still keeps bugging me to charge them anyway. Oh, I've also seen things like supply drop boxes floating in midair, but That's easily put down to the nature of a procedurally generated game. But enough of the technical issues, the real question is, how does it play? To which my answer is, it plays like a Brian Eno album. What I mean by that is it's not a relentless assault of noise, heavy beats, pounding rhythms and other stuff focused with laser precision on getting your heart pounding like, say, your average AAA game or your average Combi Christ album. For the most part, it's soothing, laid back, meandering, almost a dreamlike experience that you can enjoy getting yourself lost in if that's your particular cup of tea. If you prefer a more focused, handcrafted and curated experience, however, then you'll likely soon find yourself getting bored. At least in theory, because the most jarring thing about No Man's Sky is that for a game supposedly all about going at your own pace, finding your own way through the galaxy, etc., it spends a lot of bloody time nagging you about things. When a computerised voice isn't constantly telling you your life support is low, even though it's at a comfortable 75%, the screen will suddenly go into letterbox mode with milestone announcements that congratulate you on speaking to 5 aliens, for example, or walking 10 feet without falling on your arse. At the beginning of the game, I was given a choice of accepting one of the main story paths or striking out on my own, and I chose the latter, thinking I'd be able to do my own thing and go at my own pace. Except no, because even then the game still nagged me to build a hyperdrive and learn how to make antimatter. At the moment, every time I'm flying around in space in a star system, a message pops up telling me to warp to the next star system. It's as though the game can't stand the fact that I might want to properly explore all the planets here, even though that's entirely the point of the game. Speaking of flying around in space, the space combat is absolutely atrocious. I wasn't expecting TIE fighter levels of space combat, but even the space combat in the original Elite works better than No Man's Skies. Your ship manoeuvres like a brick thrown through a window, and while there are upgrades that supposedly make it more agile, they take up precious space in your ship's inventory, as does every other ship upgrade and system like the weapons and the shields. So while I could make my ship strong enough to actually survive the 4v1 dogfights the game throws at me whenever I have something vaguely valuable in my cargo, that would leave me almost zero room to carry any. Oh, and good luck trying to run away. Space pirates will literally chase you into a planet's atmosphere to take your one measly unit of gold from you. On the topic of upgrades, the same system applies to your exosuit, so if you want to make getting around planets easier with things like jetpack and sprint upgrades, you need to sacrifice carrying space. It's not so bad when you've upgraded your suit with extra slots like I have, but it's a colossal pain in the arse at the beginning of the game when you only have a 4x4 grid to work with. I can see what Hello Games were trying to do with this system, forcing the players to make a trade-off between carrying capacity and survivability, but right now it only really works as intended with the multi-tool, where the trade-off is between mining efficiency or combat effectiveness. Regarding combat, you'll rarely find yourself in a fight planet-side unless you piss off the roaming eco-conscious sentinel robots or you land on a planet full of skittering carnivorous night predators. And when you do, the combat mechanics are serviceable, I suppose. You could tweak your multi-tool to add a gun mode with grenade launcher, and you can improve it with things like increased ammo between reloads or more damage. Alternatively, you can eschew combat altogether and beef up your mining tech to the point where you can reduce entire pillars of gold to dust in the blink of an eye. And once you've got that done, you can then just run away before the sentinels show up and they won't bother you. It's up to you how to figure out how to get the most out of your upgrades, however, because despite all the nagging it does, the game doesn't do a bloody thing to explain more basic mechanics like setting waypoints, which I discovered entirely by accident, or indeed how upgrades actually work. For the record, they work by stringing them together so they're all sort of connected to each other and the particular system they improve, like your jetpack for example. Only problem is, you can't move pre-existing systems like the jetpack on your suit or your ship's engine. Nor can you move upgrades once you've built them, so if your ship layout arbitrarily has its shield system in an isolated slot, you'll never get the full potential benefits out of any upgrades for it. Oh yeah, and you can't dismantle essential ship systems either to rebuild them in another slot. And yet despite all these issues, bugs and complaints, I've genuinely enjoyed a lot of my time in No Man's Sky thus far. I absolutely love tracking down alien ruins and knowledge stones to learn more words for the main alien languages. I literally spent around 2 hours yesterday on one planet tracking down the last animal I needed to complete my survey report, and get a big fat juicy bonus for it. It's fun to name them too, like I did for the scuttling terror git here. I called it that because it scuttles, it terrified the hell out of me when I first landed on its home planet at night, and because it attacked me like a git. Emergent moments like that, when you're making your own stories and helping to impose some sort of order on a vast, incomprehensible universe, are where the No Man's Sky experience really shines through. Which makes me all the more sad and frustrated that I cannot recommend it in its current state and at the full asking price. Even if this game looks right up your stellar alley, the bugs, crashes and other technical issues alone should make you think twice. Whereas if you prefer more handcrafted, curated experiences, then No Man's Sky's procedurally generated cosmos definitely won't keep your attention for very long. In short, don't believe the hype. But don't entirely dismiss the game either. Hello Games have promised future updates to No Man's Sky will be completely free, and that the next one will add base building and the ability to own giant space freighters. So there's a chance the game could really blossom into something special over time. Right now, however, I cannot in good conscience recommend it. Wait for a sale, and definitely wait for the bugs to be fixed before you even consider flying in No Man's Sky's sky. All that's left for me to say now is thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Until then, cheery byes.